Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Monday, May 4th, 2026 Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board meeting. We have a quorum. I'm still expecting Craig, but we'll begin the meeting. The meeting agenda, I don't believe changes, no changes, so it remains as posted. You've received Jim's meeting notes. Are there any questions or comments?
Move we accept.
I have a motion, a second, please.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. You have in draft form the April 20 minutes. Any corrections or additions?
None.
I have a motion and a second, please.
Motion.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Correspondence and announcements? Anyone? Okay. Then we'll proceed to the application portion of this evening's meeting. First up is Rhinebeck 2020 LLC, now Route 308, minor subdivision, subdivision into 3 lots. Hi.
Melody, I will recuse myself from this slide.
Okay.
I'll just over there for a moment.
Yep. Let the record show that Denise is recusing herself.
We don't have a quorum. Hi, good evening, Victoria Polidoro, Road and Heaven Trial Polidoro, here on behalf of Rhinebeck 2020 LLC. This project was before you a few years ago and approved in 2023 as a 2-lot subdivision. At the time, it was 2 lots with 2 separate driveways. The applicant has thought through it a little more and has decided that he would rather put in 1 driveway and he would rather create a 3rd lot that also gets access off of the 1 driveway. So it would be the elimination of the 2nd driveway off of Route 308, so we'd only have the 1 curb cut, but the addition of the 3rd building lot. All of the lots exceed the minimum lot size in the district, which is 5 acres. And we did apply for the special use permit for a conventional subdivision for the 3rd lot. So here tonight for your feedback.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jim?
So took a look at this. I think it's the comments I have are pretty straightforward. If I touch on something that you submitted, just let me know. You do need from the applicant, both fire department and fire inspector approval of the driveway. I don't think you've seen those. You will have to talk to NISDOT for the approval of the driveway entrance since it's all changing. What's going where and how that's all working. And then on there, actually haven't go over one of the questions I did have is just to confirm that the previously proposed driveways past the shared driveway area here is all remaining the same. Because there was a lot of discussion, I remember last time, about this alignments through the wetland buffer that had already existed, I believe, on the site. So just wanted to confirm that these driveway alignments past and where things change here are changing from what was on the previous plans. It didn't look like it, but just wanted to confirm that.
My understanding is that it has not changed, and I can have the engineer do an overlay so that we can confirm that.
One of the other questions just regarding the lot 3 here, this looks like there might be some steep slopes. The lot needs to have at least 75% of 5 acres, so 3.75 acres of buildable area. I'm pretty confident you have that, just like to make sure that the engineer does a calculation to make sure we have that and we meet that requirement. I don't think it's an issue with the area there. This one will be a little interesting. I'm sure you're dealing with this already, Victoria, but you do have a wetland on the site. I do believe only to apply to your DEC for jurisdictional determination. But as we've been saying now, the court case kind of threw out the process for the DEC, even though the law still exists. So I guess my recommendation would be that if the link is still online, I would submit for the JD, and we'll wait and see what happens with the DEC. I don't know where that process is going, but I don't want anyone getting tangled up in this later on, not submitting it. We don't know what the process is.
Okay, I'll see if that is still available, but does it make a difference if we're more than 100 feet away from where it is?
It's a couple hundred feet with the law from the way we've read it. We were actually previously requesting applicants, based on the way the law is written, to submit if they were within, I think it was 800 feet of a wetland, or if there are any vernal pools. Even if that was off-site, the responses we've been getting back from DEC lately have just been that they've been looking only at the property itself, so we've kind of pulled that back in now since we've had some responses from them, but because there are wetlands on the site, I do think you have to apply for that JD.
Okay, we'll follow up.
And then the last one, just wanted to know if the applicant has met with Central Hudson and needs to meet with Central Hudson since the lot locations are changing, and now we do have a house that's actually being located closer to the right-of-way than was proposed previously. I don't have an answer for that, it's just a question to make sure it's checking the box.
So applicant is in talks with DOT, but I don't believe they've spoken to Central Hudson. I'll check the easement again. I don't think it's required.
I don't know if they have to, but the house is closer to the easement now than either the previous two were proposed, so I just want to make sure, again, we're going under the issue.
Okay, we can confirm.
That's everything I had.
Planning board members? Questions? Comments?
There's nothing in the easement, correct, currently, correct? No lines or anything in there?
No, they haven't installed any utilities in the current driveway, or in the proposed driveway location from the first approval.
I'm sorry I was late. Is this where the heart is?
It is east of the heart.
Okay.
So the heart is on a different property.
Okay.
Does it sort of wrap around the back of the heart?
Yes, I believe the heart would, I believe this is the heart, the guessing, and then that is the.
There's two houses very close together.
That sit back?
This wraps around the back of those property, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And hadn't we looked at these like a year or two ago?
Yes.
We were two lots of.
It was 2 lots.
So they're proposing, sorry,
Oh, God.
proposing to carve off the third lot here.
Thank you.
And there's been, if I'm correct, earlier proposals for this property, correct?
There was a much more ambitious proposal that would require a zoning change that has been withdrawn
Yeah.
in favor of this.
Right, okay. Anyone else? Jen, we have a draft procedural resolution.
Draft procedural resolution for the board's consideration for the application by Rhinebeck 2020 LLC Neal for minor subdivision and special use permit under Town Code Chapter 101 and Chapter 125, respectively, for subdivision of 2 lots into 3 on New York State Route 308 within the RC5 zoning district, accepting the application, supporting documents as adequate for further review, classifying the actions unlisted under seeker for which coordinated environmental quality review is not required. We'll schedule the public hearing for the application for June 1st. We need to send this to CAB for review and need 2 planning board members to do a site visit.
You want to go?
Sounds exciting.
Okay, Sean will go. And who would like to go, Sean?
Oh, raise your hands at once.
Don't take it personally. I'll go with Sean.
Would you like me to have the engineer there for the meeting? To walk you through anything?
Well, I'm going to be here.
Okay, yeah.
It's your choice who you want to send it to.
Okay, so let me know your chosen date, time, and I'll.
Yeah, should we
I'll make sure
work with you?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So is this access to the property, correct?
Yeah, there's a farm road where the driveway is going to be.
Got it.
We were able, I'm trying to remember who went, I think Michael might have been on the board before, and it was quite, I won't say easy, but it's accessible. And we did get all the way up to the top in the past. Were you out there too, Jeff? So, I mean, it's not just around the corner, it's a little bit of a walk, but you'll,
I'm not stressed, I just want to make sure.
well, I'm not sure I want to walk, but whatever. All right, may I have a motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries.
Thank you.
Just, I did have a couple comments on some of the notes on the plan regarding the easement, but we'll get those in my notes, we don't have to go through.
You'll send me the technical notes.
All right, the second new application this evening is that of the Now Landing LLC, 66 to 68 Canal Street, site plan and special use permit for accommodation. Good evening, Warren.
Good evening, Warren Smith, architect, representing Elijah Bender. And this property is 6668 Grinnell Street. There's actually a small building just to the north of the house, which is a garage and an apartment that was installed there some years ago. But this application specifically addresses the house itself. The proposal is to renovate or rebuild the exterior of the existing sunroom that's on the south side of the house. It's the form, the footprint doesn't change, but we're putting in more appropriate looking windows. The one that's there has sort of a 70s vibe to it, and the house itself is like 1900s. So we're trying to make it a little more compatible with the rest of the house. We're rebuilding the porch that faces the road. Interestingly, from the 1940-some photographs, it appears that they always use the river entrance, rather like Livingston's and Claremont. And you can see there that even back then, that porch facing the river was enclosed. Maybe it had been built that way. Right now, it's not. It's open. And the subsequent owner renovated that, opened it up, put wood posts there, and a massive brick fireplace on the left-hand side. But we're not doing anything with that, except to replace some large sliding glass doors and French doors. So we're not changing the footprint of the house. We're rebuilding the sunroom here, again, with new windows, and we're rebuilding the porch that faces Grinnell Street, because that's actually the primary entrance now. It takes you a set of stairs up to the kitchen. The existing set of stairs, sort of a T-shaped structure here. It's deteriorated, a mixture of concrete and stone, and we're replacing it with proposing to replace it with a wooden stair that just comes straight down from the front of the porch. After we looked at a number of different options, it seemed the simplest and most compatible. So again, taking it up to the porch that gives you access into the house from what is effectively the kitchen door. And the only other change we're proposing to the exterior is to add a dormer on the east side facing Grinnell Street. There is only a dormer on the west side above the bay. On the west facade, we want to match it with the dormer on the east side, just because we think it will enhance the elevation. But I will tell you, the owners are not totally committed to that, so if the planning board has concerns about that, we don't have to do that, but we think it actually enhances the house. And there should be some renderings along with that for you to consider. So this is looking toward the house from one end of the driveway that comes in and wraps around the house. You can see on the left the sunroom with tall French door style windows. There is the porch that faces Grinnell Street with the straight stair going up to the center of it for direct access into the kitchen door. And then there's the dormer that you can see on the roof above the window. Interestingly, the window, the fenestration pattern is as it always has been. It's not fully symmetrical, even though it's 3 bays. You can see that the center window is not centered between the other two. We considered changing that, but we're going to leave it alone. It's a nice quirky character. So that's pretty much the substance of what we're proposing to do with the house. There are some associated interior renovations, but nothing to impact the exterior. So that's a view then from the riverside. We're not making any changes other than replacing some metal railings with wooden railings on the side of the steps. Well, that brick was done there for a previous owner. And then that's the sunroom from the south side.
Jim?
Two comments. One is just that since we are putting a dormer, I think there's a proposal for the dormer in the roof line that isn't changing the roof line, so it requires demolition permit approval from the planning board as well as the site plan special use permit. Otherwise, I think it's really aren't any planning issues. It's a discussion of consistency of the historic character of the house property and the hamlet.
Planning board members?
The asymmetry of the fenestration, does that telegraph anything that's going on the interior, like a staircase or an enlarged room?
On the staircase, it's actually their bedrooms on either side and a bathroom in the middle. So it's just the way it was built. And curiously, you wouldn't know it. This house was built as a two-family house,
Okay.
and there were two internal. There's no evidence from the outside, but there were two internal staircases. One of which has been mostly removed. Part of it's sort of walled up behind, a wall. We're gonna remove the rest of it. But I would say it's one of those two-family houses owned by one family, and so different family members shared it. So there was never any real indication that it was a two-family. But I don't know that that has any particular bearing on the location of that window.
It looks like the door is directly under that offset window though, right?
The door to the kitchen, I think, may be under
Yeah,
that.
so maybe, they're in alignment.
Yeah, right.
Why a second dormer? What will it do?
It's just an attic. It's for aesthetics.
So it's not for some internal use?
No, no.
Anyone else? Okay, Jim, have a procedural resolution?
Procedure resolution for the board's consideration for the application by Grinnell Landing LLC for site plan special use permit under Town Code Chapter 125, as well as demo permit for renovations to the existing house at 66 to 68 Grinnell Street within the RCH and RCO zoning districts, accepting the application supporting documents is adequate for further review by the planning board. Classifying action is type 2 under seeker, for which coordinated environmental quality review is not required. We will schedule the public hearing for June 1st, or no earlier than 6:05 p.m. We will send it to the CAB, the WAC, and HAPAC. These applications no longer are going to Dutchess County. They've made some changes. They essentially don't want to see single-family homes anymore for the most part, so they will not go to Dutchess County. And we need 2 planning board members to do a site visit.
Hold on. So Sharon and Edna. May I have a motion?
So, second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
Thank you.
That concludes the new application discussions for this evening, so past 6:05, we'll move into the public hearings. The first public hearing for this evening is that of David Lang, 16 Charles Street, site plan and special use permit, renovation, shed dormer, windows, HVAC.
Hi, good evening. My name is Diego Salaya. I'm here with Architecture Plus Construction. I'm here to depict the project at 16 Charles Street. And basically what we're proposing to do is to erect a new dormer on the roof, a gable-style dormer facing north. This is going to be hosting a bathroom in the attic level. And also we're proposing to put some mini split units on the lowest level mounted against the wall here. Next slide. This is the site. Charles Street runs north and south. This is the driveway into the property. The property exists here in a small parcel. The house is on the southeast corner here. The garage is here. There's no work proposed to the garage. So you can see this is the area where the new gable dormer is going to go. HVAC units are placed here in this corner, and we're also proposing a small HVAC unit tucked in the back of the garage. If you're familiar with the site, it slopes upward eastbound. This is the west side, I'm sorry, eastbound. So there's really no visibility from here. There's another residence here, but you would really have to be looking down to see what's occurring downhill from them. And this is just the floor plan of the garage. An exterior unit with a wall-mounted unit on the inside. Here we have the existing attic floor plan. It's basically sloped. Majority of the head height exists here and here because there's a gable and here, and the main roof runs up and down the sheet. This is the existing second floor, and what we're proposing to do is remove this wall here so we can add a staircase, L-shaped staircase from here going up to the attic, because here, as you go up, the slope pitches left to right, so we wouldn't have the head height to access the attic. Here's the proposed roof plan with gable dormer, new skylights, proposed floor plan for the attic with just a bathroom here. The dormer footprint is located here, and this is the proposed staircase, also shown on the second floor. And this is the elevation. This is the only elevation that would be affected here, besides the skylights on each side of the roof, except for the west elevation. What we have here is a gable and dormer facing north with a small window, and then the only other work happening is small windows in the existing openings where we currently have vents occupied by a couple of birds' nests at the moment. And this is the HVAC unit where the proposed. I have some images in the following slides so you can see a couple street views. I photoshopped some of the units in there for mock-up. This is just a section of where the dormer would go, cutting it through. This is a section the other way, showing the bathroom from the lowest point to the highest point, looking north. And then this is the proposed scope of work. Basically, there is no dormer there now. It's just a gable roof, east to west, and we're proposing to pop up a gable dormer facing north. This is a view from above the garage. This is the north side of the house. So what we have here is, these are not installed yet. I photoshopped these to get a visual of what they would look like. It's a small unit and a larger unit. We're hoping to run the units, the line sets, through the wall cavities into the house the best route possible. But as discussed with Melody and Craig, if that's not possible, we're looking to tuck them in. But our goal, the client wishes not to see them. And we think that because the house was balloon framed, maybe the cavities are there that exist, and we can just run them up and down inside the wall cavity there. This is another visual. Currently, a couple images from a few weeks ago, you really couldn't see the HVAC units as you're driving the speed limit there unless you're looking for them. There were some questions about whether the units could be placed anywhere else, and the problem with placing them on the north side is we have the driveway, so the client's concerned about clearance, snow buildup. As you can see, we have some low windows on the rear of the house, so mounting these anywhere here would kind of be complicated, and also the line set runs are further away from the living space. This is the area where we're proposing an HVAC unit at the rear of the garage. And like I said, this topography slopes upward, and it's not visible from the opposing road. This is an image during the winter time. There's vegetation there, but even with that, not very visible. There was a request to see the inside of the garage. The client is proposing this area to be his workspace as a studio, and basically this is what the existing condition is, and the existing condition from the outside. And then just some more images, but just a floor plan of where the units are going to go. Some of the schematic locations of where we want some heads, but they're not confirmed yet. We're thinking that maybe some of the units that being wall mounted, they could just be ceiling mounted, so that way we want to run lines to the opposing sides of the house. And then just another floor plan of the attic space and the second floor. You come up to the second floor through these stairs, you go up to the attic. You arrive here, and it's just a work area with a bathroom. Yep.
So the plans that I put up here, I think were submitted on Friday. Came in Friday afternoon, and then Jeff sent them to us first thing this morning when she got in and got those. So I have not reviewed them to see what any changes, if there are any changes from last night. I assume that there are.
Yes, Melody and Craig were there, and there was an existing flue that was not in the previous drawings. And the question was how would we accommodate that through the gable roof there. Well, the walls, when you go, the wall for the bathroom would kind of terminate somewhere here. So I'm just showing the fireplace flue going through there. And in the case where the conditions don't allow that, we might just tuck an elbow in and shift this around a little bit. But that was the only change in these drawings and the images in one of the slides.
So, I guess I don't have any new comments from last time. We did talk about how, the mini splits on the south side are toward the front of the structure, but we did just get the visuals for those. I don't think you touched on the basement. I mean, you talked about whether or not that was currently conditioned. You're proposing 2 handlers down there, I believe.
Yeah, there's
the discussion.
whether it was conditioned, and it is conditioned, but a lot of the concern there is that it's very wet and cool in the winter, so the units are there for heating and dehumidification.
So otherwise, we discussed the fact that a demo permit would be needed as well because there's a change in the roof line. This is, significantly discussion of consistency with the historic nature of the property in the hamlet. We also had discussed previously about the bedroom count and the possible use of the attic as a bedroom. There is a note on the plans now that say it is an attic study non-habitable, so there is a note on the plans, but I don't know if we've come to a conclusion. I think the board has to come to a conclusion on that use, and then that obviously would dictate potential changes to the, to the septic, if you were decided to make that required kind of element. So no new comments from last time, just kind of a rehash of.
Okay.
Mike and I did the site visit. Where do you like to start?
Yeah, first of all, were the skylights on the plans that you showed us in the field?
Yeah, yes, I have them here actually.
And you're going to abandon the brick chimney that comes out in
Yes.
favor of a stack of some kind?
Yeah, well, the stack is there now. The brick chimney is non-breaking, so we're going to cap that at the top of the second floor, so it's not in the attic. And we just control that with roofing, that opening through the roof.
So there's going to be no chimney
Correct.
visible?
Correct.
Bricks are all going to be gone?
Correct.
Okay. And I'm still not clear on how much headroom you have. There's a point, I think it's 6 foot 6 inches, where it doesn't really count toward your floor space. And is there a line on your plans that show, where a tall person is going to hit his head?
I don't have one here, but I can show you where the 6'8" marker is. This door is 6'8". My knowledge of the code is habitable space. The minimum head height is 6'8". So I looked into this further, and I have a citation from the residential code, and I bring this up with Rhinebeck as well. But I'm sure there's other things we can look into. For the residential building code, a citation from section 312.1, the minimum area for a habitable room shall have a floor area of not less than 70 square feet. The minimum dimension for a habitable room should not be less than 7 feet in any horizontal dimension. So when I looked at the plan, and I'm sorry I didn't show that in here, can you go through the floor plan? So if we take a measurement from the middle of the ridge, go below, 6'8" gives me about 3'8" from the center of the ridge out. So I have the 70 square feet. If I draw a rectangle up and down in this dimension, because it's 3 foot wide by the length of the building. Well, what I don't have is the 7 foot horizontal point left and right. So that's my
So it
interpretation.
wouldn't count as a bedroom?
Correct.
Or couldn't be counted as a bedroom based on that criteria?
Right, and if there is some sort of exception, we're open to putting up walls so it doesn't exceed a 7 foot horizontal measurement, in the future for anyone else.
All right. And also, one of the things that he explained to us in the field was that the design of the dormer is going to be simple but consistent with what's visible elsewhere.
Correct.
So you're not trying to mimic any of the details like the brackets or barge boards or anything like that. But it is going to be wood, and it's going to have a built-up cornice and that sort of thing, but not as elaborate as what you see on the original elevation.
Yes, so much about not making it look bad.
And you said you were going to endeavor to match the siding, but it has that composite board siding broken, and it's going to be hard to match in kind, but it'll be something that, again, is compatible and is consistent.
Yes, and if I can add to that, we talked about any repairs to the building, and the clients and I are going to sit down and go over a couple other things I can present to you if there's any changes, but they were just in favor. If we have a half-round gutter on that side of the house, it's deformed, and said we're just going to replace it with a new half-round gutter in white, and any other notes like that that need to be changed, we'll note them on the plans and bring them to you here.
Okay.
So
The other thing was the vertical wall of that dormer is going to die inboard of what would have been a built-in gutter, so there's going to be a visible apron there in front of it, so it's not going to be
correct.
flush with the
Correct.
exterior. And then the other thing is we looked at the arched vent window
Yes.
that's into the attic, and you had explained that that was going to be replaced. The louvers were going to be taken out, and a glazed window the same size
Yes.
is going to be put in. And your plans showed that being just a square. It would look much simpler on your plans.
Okay. Okay. Well, I can modify that for the next go around, or any document to get the approval to match the existing shape of the existing opening.
Okay, because I mean that looks different from
Yes, I understand.
what's
Okay.
there, and that's one of those it's a little thing,
Little details.
but it's one of those character-defining features that we want to make sure are preserved and
Correct.
not eliminated. And I thought that the placement of the mini-split units was sensible and probably the ideal location for this building. Less visible and fitting with the cluster of the existing utilities.
Yes, there was an electrical box or some sort of meter and some conduit here, so this is the utility corner.
Right. And I think that's all I have to share.
Yeah, there's not much I would add. We did look at the garage and where you're proposing the unit there and walked around in the back, and even though there's a house up high, there's really, I don't think it's going to interfere with the view. They're going to be looking out and doing that down at the back of the garage. The location of the utilities are on the side. So obviously you're intending to come back. I don't know if you'll have a chance to, you probably should see on here in some way where you would run the conduit in case.
Okay.
So you don't have to have it come back and look at it. It makes sense that you show us where it would be if you can't run it interior as
Yep.
opposed, and then you can take that into consideration in the resolution when you get there.
Yeah, I was going to mention that thing, because you have said that you're not quite sure how things are going to work, so if there are any changes that are made on the outside of the building, you would have to come back to the planning board. So if we're willing to talk about what the options might be to handle that.
Yeah, I would show it on this and make a note to the effect that, your hope is to do it on the inside, but then we can be looking at what we would approve following that. We did talk about the siding. There are a number of pieces that are not in good shape, and so we raised the question as to whether or not the applicant might be eventually looking to re-side the whole building, and if so, it's always better to do it in one application as opposed to going forward. So we raised that. That's entirely up to them, obviously. I don't think, the landscaping on that side of the house where you're putting the units is really going to hide them quite well, and there's an opportunity to put in another shrub or two if it turns out to be something they wanted to. We unfortunately, when I asked you in the field if there were interior renovations we needed to talk about, you said there weren't any, so we didn't go into a discussion of the inside when we were in the field on the site visit. So I think that brings us back to other questions from the planning board and then the discussion of potential other bedroom. Other planning board members?
I think I might have asked this previously, but is there a bathroom in the garage?
No bathroom. You could, it's not, the image doesn't show everything, but you can see,
You can't see.
yeah, you can't see the left-hand corner there.
Well, we reviewed
This was
one
just
a year ago.
before us.
Because it was a condition for it, I think that's.
Yeah, well, it wasn't conditioned, and I don't think they'd gotten the permit to do it in the first place.
There was a heater in there, wasn't there?
Yeah, yeah.
We came back to.
He was trying to sell it, and he had to make it legal
Got it.
to sell it.
Okay. I just couldn't know if there was a.
No. Anyone else? Questions, comments?
Jim, did we learn any more about third floor and sprinkler systems?
I have not.
Okay.
But we currently have a zoning administrator who is coming in occasionally. We don't have a part-time, full-time zoning administrator anymore, so I haven't really talked with him since he stepped down from his position.
that he had, so I don't have any information on that.
All right.
I guess I could catch up with the building department.
Any other comments or questions? Your thoughts on the third floor?
My own feeling is, it's, I think, important, especially for Rhinecliff, to understand that the goal is not really to preserve these houses in amber, and we have to allow for things to grow and change as long as that's in scale and in keeping with the context. And I think this is an important step that's of lesser impact and is consistent with what you see if you stand there and look around at the other buildings. It's not really going to present too much of an intrusion.
And it's not a massive change on the primary elevation.
Right. And, the roof line and the way that the roof is trimmed out is very important, but the roof surface itself is not. It's not like we have an expressive Spanish tile or, something like that that's being eliminated. It is just 3-tab asphalt, shingles, just regular asphalt.
Let me take a look. It's hard to tell, but either it's architectural or 3-tab.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just regular tree fabric with architecture.
And your feelings on, is it or isn't it even?
It looked to me like there was access that would be required for a bedroom, is there? Is there immediate access to the outside in that attic?
Oh, no.
No,
You mean like
it's just
egress?
the stairs. Just the stairs.
There's no window through which you could escape if there were a fire.
I don't believe we need one because it's not a habitable space.
I know, that is what I'm saying.
Right,
That's why it would not be a bedroom.
We can't count it as a bedroom.
Right. And just my interpretation, I'll discuss this with Ed Maddock as well, but the 7-foot horizontal clearance is my thinking that it can't be a bedroom. If you have a bed, you put a bed 6 feet wide, 2 feet to go around.
What else?
You're gonna talk to Ed about a couple things?
Yeah.
Can you check with him on the sprinkler?
Sure.
And have him send you an email and something in writing so we can put that in the file.
Okay, and then there was a comment on the sprinkler, and again, that was any area that's a habitable space, any attic that's a habitable space should be sprinkled. The definition of a habitable space is a livable area with all the other amenities, habitable space. So
If you're gonna talk with Ed, you can just ask him if you
Okay.
can sign off on that. That would just be a little extra.
They're going to be using it. It's not habitable, but it's going to be used, correct?
Storage, yeah.
Just
stuff like
storage,
that.
there's a bathroom there?
Yeah, she said she's an artist,
Right.
so that, and also they don't want there's one bathroom there on the second floor,
Right.
one in the basement. She
Right.
wants to utilize the attic as kind of her bathroom with.
I think the point Delisa's driving at is, while it may not be a bedroom per se, if someone's going to be working up there,
Mhm.
using it as an artist studio or something like that in a workroom, I think she's trying to establish that, maybe a sprinkler system would be nice, even if
Okay.
you're not considering it habitable. You don't want somebody to get trapped up there.
Okay. Well,
So just check on
I
it.
will.
Is the window in the bathroom, is that something in an emergency a human being could get through?
It's not sized for an egress window, but I also don't think we have the space in here for that. It has to be 5.7 square feet and 24 inches in width. So we do the math, like on a double hung or casement, I don't think we have the rough opening to put an egress window in there. And I can come back in my presentation and show an outline of an egress window. That would help.
And you were also trying to keep that aspect from the arch window that's on the...
Yeah, the same
On the gable
fixed
end.
windows on each side. We're not putting a double hung in here or an awning or anything like that.
Yeah, it might not look right if it was
Right.
bigger.
Because it's on a different level, so all these are the same size.
Mhm.
And everything else in down there is double hung.
The skylights aren't comparable?
No. I don't think skylights can be a point of egress either.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know.
There is a kind of window that is also a skylight.
Oh,
Anything else? Then it sounds like we need a motion to continue the public hearing. But before I do that, let me ask if there's anyone here from the public. This is a public hearing, anyone wishing to comment on this application? Okay, then we'll continue the public hearing to
June 1st.
June 1st. Motion and second, any?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Deirdre. The next public hearing this evening is that of the Rhinebeck Hotel Authority, 4 Grinnell Street, amended site plan and special use permit for the addition of parking spaces. Good evening.
Kyle Ahern with Lavella. We were last here last month, and that was the first public hearing, tonight being the second. There were a handful of items that were focused on at the last meeting. So I won't go through the full application, but I just want to kind of highlight some of those, what was discussed at the last meeting and how we've responded. So the first item, the planning board had asked us to resubmit the current plan to the highway superintendent. We got the highway department's reapproval of the plan. They had previously approved it in 2022. There was, the only change was the elimination of parallel space, but just to go back and make sure there are no new concerns. We did submit that with this latest application, submission I should say. So the highway department has reapproved the on-street parking. We had discussed the bollard at the last meeting. We had talked about eliminating it, but the plan hadn't been updated to reflect that, so that was what was this bollards there? Is this our most recent submission? Well, in any event,
We didn't talk about eliminating.
Yep. 4 bollards are no longer proposed. The fencing was, I would say, the kind of the main item that was discussed. I know there was a lot of, differing opinions, but we tried to aggregate everyone's, input and find common ground where we could. But that might not be in this set. Can you go to C530? Yeah, this is the last. Can we go back to the site plan I just described? So this? Yes. Second one there. So there are 3 fences existing on the site that we've discussed, but I'll just go through them quickly so we can kind of identify the differences between them and then what we're proposing now. So around the wastewater facilities, there is a stockade fence. It is a cedar fence, 6 feet in height, and it's a stockade fence. It's rather utilitarian looking. Really just for the screening aspect to hide. There's a shed here, and then some tanks and small equipment behind the shed and next to the shed. There is the white picket fence along Grinnell. And then the third type is the fencing, the fall protection fencing that's along the rear of the lawn area. Yes, so you can see the bollards are no longer there. We're going to see 530. Nope, you're good. Okay, so this is the picket fence. It is mostly unchanged from the original proposal, but we did, as we discussed, the preference was to go with the cedar finish. So that's what that was changed to, and it's also reduced slightly in height. It was previously 48 inches. We reduced it to 42 to match the height of the fall protection fencing. We provided a detail for that fall protection fencing. It's essentially existing fence, but instead of the white paint, it will be cedar. And then around the wastewater area, it will be still a privacy fence, and it will still be 6 feet so that it can properly screen that area. But instead of the just standard stockade fencing, it will be a board-on-board with scalloping at the top. So it should mimic the picket details there. But then on the back side of that fence, you will have additional boards in between the gaps so that it acts for screening what's behind it. So we think those changes, we tried to incorporate the input that we got, made them all the same material, but also made them material that the planning board seemed to favor because it doesn't catch the eye the way that the white paint does. Besides that, that's I believe that was all the changes.
Jim?
Nothing, planning wise, for the changes made were aesthetic and discussions of, design on the property. We talked about movement of bollards. That was the last plan that we kind of identified last time. That's it for me.
Planning board members?
I understood that the stockade fence around the sewage treatment was going to remain the same. And I feel like the scalloped appearance is overly fussy, both with the privacy fence as well as the protection around the stockade, around the sewage area. I don't think it's really a detail that exists in the context. And I would have preferred something more transparent if there's going to be a fence. I continue to feel that the picket should be as minimal as possible to provide the necessary containment.
Oops, I'm sorry. I agree with that.
Anyone else?
I like the scallop fence.
We could think of anyone else?
Greg, just for clarity, you're talking about the fence, I think 6 feet to the left?
Well, there are the two. The one that's 6 feet to the left is around the sewage treatment area.
Yeah.
And that's being replaced with what he says a board on board.
Right.
It's going to have a scallop top. Yeah.
But you want you just like the scallop top, but you definitely don't want the visibility.
You don't want the visibility.
It's
Yeah, you don't want-
intentionally opaque, so that you don't see.
Yeah, and I don't argue with that at all. It's there for a screening purpose, and it's doing that, serving that purpose perfectly well. And the board on board would also provide that, but it does kind of have that
Yeah.
decorative flourish that it's a fancy sewage treatment plant. So,
The intent is that you don't even know it's there because
Well-
it's in the fence, but it provides a more appealing appearance.
Scalloping draws attention to it.
yeah, and it's my personal feeling that kind of decorative flourish competes with the decorative appearance of the hotel, which is really why we're there. So whatever's done should, be of as low a profile as possible. And so I think it's a little overwrought, as with the, well, now I'm going to get it.
It's noted, and we're trying not to have 3 different kinds of fencing to give a more cohesive appearance, especially because people do want to utilize the lawn. So having those flourishes in photos, if there's a wedding or other kind of party out there, I think it's more attractive than the stockade.
Right. Well, I'm sorry to correct you, but there is a fourth kind of fencing or railing. It's actually that metal railing along the back. And yeah, of course, but that kind of adds to the mix, and it's got to be consistent with something.
I will say-
Why can't it be consistent with the one that is more transparent and
Well, the front
less
fencing
visible?
is more transparent. There is a gap between the pickets.
Mhm.
And so is the rear fencing, the fall fencing you're calling
The
it?
fall protection fencing is the least visible, but it's also the least aesthetic from if you're on Vernell, the picket fence, we feel it just looks better. It looks more, decorative, which is what it's there to do. So we didn't feel like the fall protection fencing around the whole lawn area would look as nice, but we did get the feedback about as much visibility as possible, so we wanted to keep that on the riverside, because that's really what gives you those views. The picket fence at 42 inches you can see over, so it's not blocking it the way the fall protection fencing would do.
Yeah, the fall protection fence gives you the visibility, but the fence along the road and along the parking doesn't.
I think
That's
you'll
less
you'll see from the photos, we do have some who's got photos committee. The fence is only about this high, so you can see over it no matter what. Even if it were 100% opaque, you'd be able to see over the fence to the river.
Okay, but there's also the fact that this is located going up a hill. So the approach to this is from below. So the first thing you're going to see is that fence that's along the parking before you get to see over the river. And also just, the fence that's along, the protection fence is 1-inch balusters that are spaced probably 4 inches apart. I didn't put a tape on it, but that's what I would expect. And then the picket fence is 2 1/4 with an inch or inch and a half space in between.
Yes, so the fall protection fencing is undoubtedly more open, there's more open space than the picket. So they're two different fences trying to accomplish two different things. Again, we're a lot of opinions and input, and we try to aggregate that and, apply the right fencing for each task, and based on that feedback. I know not everyone's going to, we're not going to get consensus on this, is what I, am kind of feeling, no matter what we get. So, I think it's responsive to that input, and also, with, trying to do something that the applicant feels is, aesthetically appealing for their site.
I appreciate the difference. Talking about water treatment plant, that's actually not very pretty. I do appreciate matching it, but you want to do it throughout the rest of the site. I also understand that as aesthetically pleasing as that black fence that blends in the background is, that's not going to be comprehensive for the entire property. And I think that we have to find somewhere in the middle, and before we were talking about a very white, stark white in-your-face fence, and now we're talking about a cedar blend to the background fence. We could say tomato on top, tomato on top. I mean, we all agree or disagree on it. We're also here for parking.
Yeah, I don't think I understand why that metal railing fence can't be used elsewhere.
Well, so I agree that we can come back to this if you'd like. I'd like to talk a little bit about the parking itself. After the last meeting, I decided to refresh my memory and took a cup of coffee and went and drove up and down Grinnell Street probably half a dozen times, just to get a sense of what's there, what I'm looking at, where there are openings, where the view shed pops in and out. And there are a number along the street. So if you're a pedestrian, this is not the last and the only opportunity you have to see the river from Grinnell Street. And I took seriously, I was thinking a lot about Kate's comment about planning for you. And so I went back to refresh my memory and looked at the National Landmark District nomination, which talks about the building being erected in 1854 as a hotel associated with the train. And I began to try and balance that in my mind, and while I agree it's an iconic view, I also have to come down on the side of saying it's an iconic building. And I'm trying to weigh those in my own mind in terms of their importance. And I'm not saying one is more or less important, but I do think, and thinking about the parking, while it is obscuring a view, I don't consider it to be destroying a view, in that there is no grading, there is no removal of soil, there's nothing that prevents that view from being seen again if that parking at some time in the future goes away. If the fences go away, if everything is removed, while the view is obscured than it is. It does not destroy the view. And on balance, and looking at the sustainability of the iconic National Register Hotel, I just end up feeling that the parking is an important element that we need to approve. That's my opinion about that. And so the fencing for me takes backseat because just like the fencing is reversible. The fencing can be changed at any time in the future. So I personally could live with either. I just personally can't get hung up on that kind of detail when I think there are more important issues. So. Others?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I appreciate all of their input, and I also appreciate the willingness through this process of the applicant listening to a lot of our feedback and trying to make adjustments. That's it. I think everyone has spoken enough in what it would cover.
I'll just say that, I consider this to be a locus of Rhinecliff.
I think it's the anchor.
Yeah,
I think it has been the anchor.
a very important site, it's a very important building, and I think it deserves a very close scrutiny to every aspect. And I applaud the efforts to bring new life to this important building. And there are just realities of everyday life that we have to put up with, and parking is one of them. And eventually, we're going to have a future where people are able to get around without access to, maybe drones will come and drop us where we want to go. But is there anything about this parking that's going to be, parking for residents of Rhinecliff only? Are you going to tow people away on Wednesday nights? Is there any kind of restriction that's placed on it?
It is going to be parking exclusively for customers of the Rhinecliff Hotel.
Okay.
I don't know what the towing schedule will be, but it's intended to be for guests. So, we wouldn't want commuters parking there and leaving their car there all day.
Of course.
I do have one question which came up, I think, a lot in the last time, the public hearing last time, which was a lot about the safety and the turn, and as people are pulling out, are there any measures for blind spots or, I don't know, things to create little barriers of protection? Because I know that was a big concern.
We did run it by the highway super, and he measured the distance, and after he reviewed the plans, he was satisfied that they were far enough away. There's already a closer turnout to the intersection that exists, so he didn't think these spaces would be an issue.
It helps also a little bit, the parking is on the outside of that bend, so cars are turning in or pulling out. I think the main issue would be pulling out. They're more visible for people coming down Grinnell than they would be if that parking was on the opposite side there.
All right. Planning board, there is nothing.
I would like to add just two things before we open the public hearing, if you don't mind. The first is that the applicant did hear all the comments about the view shed at the last meeting. He takes them seriously. The hotel owns a parcel directly to the south. And in connection with this application, the hotel is going to be putting up an interpretive sign, and that parcel will remain open. So there's a lovely spot to view the river right after the wastewater treatment plant. And the idea is that we'll put up an interpretive sign so that people walking will pay less attention to the parking spaces, and they'll have a nice sign and a nice view of the river to look at. So that is something that's being proposed. And I also just want to note that the town board did adopt a resolution in support of this application. I know you have to do your own review, but it is nice to know that the town board thinks that the hotel is an important historic and hospitality site in the hamlet as well. So I have copies which I will give to Gretchen. Thank you.
I'm going to open it now to public comment. Everybody, I think, knows the rules. So,
Yes, I do think it is a very important cornerstone of Rhinecliff, and I mean, what is it? Did you say 1854?
I said 1850.
It is tremendous, let's face it. I love it. I loved it when it was Ed Tibus's place, and I loved it for a while when the Chapmans owned it. And the Chapmans it was sort of like an experiment. You know, we say that it was always a hotel, yes, but it wasn't always a banquet hall. It wasn't always a place, something called a wedding factory, where during wedding seasons there could be 100 to 200 people there all the time. There was a resolution approved on July 6, 2005 by the ZBA. And it was approved. At that time it was Michael West, Pierce Smith, Jeff Irish, Scott Bergen, and David Baldock. A lot of us know these people who've been around here for a while. So they didn't talk much about the fencing, but I think that is important as well. I think Melody had a good point. But I just want to read, it was so important to them that the Chapmans secured 70 spaces from Amtrak for $20,000 a year. That was very important to the ZBA approval in 2005. And I'm just going to read part of the resolution. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Appeals that the Board grants approvals for 9 area variances and 3 use variances subject to the provision that the Rhinebeck Planning Board may review and may require a reduction in the operation of the hotel, the restaurant, and all the related activities in the event that for any reason, at any future time, the parking lot lease with Amtrak has been terminated. That was important to them. They knew how fragile Rhinecliff was and still is about parking. So I don't understand how we're even thinking about approving it as, I could approve it as a hotel. I could approve it as taking the banquet hall out, making 6 more bedrooms, have a 15-room hotel with a little pub. That would be great. But a banquet hall with all these people and no parking, buses, huge tourist buses out in front, idling for 5 hours. I think you talked about in scale with the Hamlet, that other project. This is not in scale. That's one of my comments. The other comment is last year when Diaspora came in front of us all, they had lost their grandfather, not the grandfather clause, but the sunset clause, because they've been closed for over an extended period of time. Because of that, it went back to the ZBA. I don't know why this project did not go back to the ZBA. If indeed you lose your variances, you have to go back to go get those variances again, from what I understand. That's my comment.
Hello, my name is Howard Trout. Full disclosure, I work for the William Gottlieb Management Company who owns the hotel. So obviously I'd like to see the hotel open and running like it used to be. I have a letter here from Caroline Carey. She lives on Grinnell Street. Dear Planning Board members, I am writing in support of the application by the Rhinecliff Hotel to add 8 on-site parking spaces. I live on Grinnell Street just south of the hotel and walk by the site often. The addition of the parking spaces will not diminish my enjoyment of the hamlet and in fact will benefit the community. There are plenty of open spots along Grinnell Street where the Hudson River can be viewed. and even with parked cars, there will still be a view of the river and the mountains. I also do not believe that the parking spaces will cause any issues with traffic, as there are only 2 residential driveways at that end of the street. The Rhinecliff Hotel is an important part of the hamlet, and I request that this board expeditiously approve the application. Thank you for your consideration. Yours, Caroline Carey. Now I have my own comments. I was at last month's meeting also. And there was some concern about the cars that were backing out of the proposed parking lot, which would create a dangerous situation with cars traveling on the Grinnell Street. A vehicle turning the corner on Grinnell and Schatzel and heading south on Grinnell up the hill would have to travel approximately 118 feet, I measured it today, before it meets the proposed lot. So from here up to here is 118 feet, approximately, and that's about 8 to 9 car lengths, depending on your car size. I have a minivan, so it's probably 8 lengths of my minivan. And it would also be the same coming down Grinnell, heading north from up here. The road starts to go down, and I measured that, and that's also around 118 feet. So there's plenty of a sight line to avoid a collision on this little traveled Grinnell Street. And there was also some concern about the view of the Hudson River and the mountains being blocked by cars parked in the lot. I've taken a picture today with a car parked next to the proposed lot, and you can still see the river and the mountains. I have a copy, 2 copies here, so everybody, maybe we should use this during the last discussion of the fences. So this shows you, that's today, a car parked there.
Thank you.
You're not going to have the view blocked by any cars parked there. Thank you. Yeah.
Hello, Board. I'm George Beckwith. I'm an architect with a specialty in historic preservation. And I really appreciate all the detail that the Board is, and questioning the Board is going into every little detail of the projects, the previous one and this one. But I also agree with Melody that there's sort of this white elephant in the room, which is that Rhinecliff is just this beautiful hamlet. We love it. We love to live there. It's quiet, it's beautiful. And I appreciate that the hotel is a fantastic historic place, and it would be great to bring it back. But I also agree with Richard that, aside from the parking, which seems like actually a small issue to me comparatively, I agree with Richard that if this functions as a hotel, that would be terrific, and even adding rooms. But it's just horrifying to think of, like on the river during the summer, you can hear these party boats going by with loud music. Well, I can just see if the hotel's used as a party venue also. I think that would be really tragic for the community. So I just wanted to register that. I don't know if there can be any stipulations put in place in the permits where it can be used for certain things and not for others. But I really feel like it would impact the community, our little community, greatly if we have 150 people coming to a wedding or something like that. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you for that. Just a couple of comments. We hear a lot about what Mr. Chapman did, and he's not here.
Melody, would you mind speaking?
Mr. Chapman's not here, and I don't want to go back and litigate what he did or didn't do there at the time. I would point out that there's a noise ordinance in the town, and so I would hope that were there events there that were getting out of control, well, Richard, it exists. Whether it's properly enforced or not is a different question, but I am pointing out that there is a tool that exists in the town should you be dealing with parties that get out of hand. We're not talking about the use here. I think the use has been established unless I'm incorrect, Jen.
Yeah, I mean, Victoria, it's been a while since I looked at it, but I believe we discussed both the fact that the ZBA, this is kind of option 2 that the ZBA had done back in the day, should the Amtrak spaces be lost, and then there was also a discussion about continuous use of the building, which we went through, I think, a year or 2 ago. And I believe that's all been established, but I don't remember the details off the top of my head.
Sure, so for the record, there still is a lease in place with Amtrak, so I'm not sure where that allegation came from, but they're still paying Amtrak rent every month. So that part of the ZBA deal continues. We are preparing for a future where the Amtrak station is under construction, and there are a lot more computers now than there were 20 years ago. And so competing interests for parking, but the Amtrak leases, there is still an Amtrak lease in place. Second, we did go through the use issue previously. It was determined that it was a continuous use. They continue to use the facility, just not on the same scope as it was previously used.
So effectively, the use has been covered by the zoning administrator and determinations by the ZBA. We're here to talk about the parking, not the use. It's been determined to be continuous, I guess that's it. So we're here to talk about parking and related aspects of that. That's the application.
Right, we've only applied for site plan amendment for the parking spaces, not for anything having to do with the use of the building.
All right, other members of the public?
Susan, may I have a word?
You certainly may.
I'd like to have one after business hours.
Yes, I see you. I'll get you.
Thank you. Sure. That's my job, because I was chair.
Thank you. My name is Luis Fernandez, and I've been a resident of Rhinebeck probably since 1962, 3, 4, I can't remember. It's been a long time. Been so long that I knew the Rhinebeck Hotel when it was truly the Rhinebeck Hotel. After many years of sustaining the bar fights, they could hear it at nighttime, hearing people cursing, drunk outside, hearing beer cans thrown, and for so many years, finally I built the courage to complain to the town that it was intolerable. So the complaint went through and they held a meeting. But I was furious. Unfortunately, when they held a meeting to hear my complaint, I had already purchased tickets to go to Europe and visit Italy. In discovering Europe, I found a similarity between Europe and Rhinebeck that I truly appreciate. When the time came, the Rhinebeck Hotel closed, and the Chapman brothers bought it, tore it down, and renovated it. For two people that have no idea, in my opinion, about carpentry, they did the most beautiful job that one can admire. The carpenter that did the work inside did a magnificent job inside. So nice that he scapped some of the original lumber, the beams, saved them, and put them in another house that he was rebuilding.
in Rhinecliff and turn that to be also beautiful inside. Now, the outside of this building was also made beautiful. I own a little tiny house directly across the street, just a little bit north of it, where the proposed parking lot is going to be. I have to tell you, I feel bad for the current owner, having purchased that building because it was so magnificent, beautiful, and then not knowing that CSX would cut the contract for the parking that the Chapmans had arranged. I used to plow for the Chapmans. The bottom line was it became money for the railroad. I should say, unfortunately, money is the bottom line for a lot of people, where some things are overlooked that are more important just than the money. I feel sad for what happened to the current owner, having that building with all good intentions and not being able to do anything because of what Amtrak did. That was unfair, in my opinion. However, Amtrak is growing, and they need more and more and more parking space. And they own wherever the train travels throughout the country. They own it. If the current owners are asking for 7, 8 parking lots across the street from my house, my little tiny house, it's a 3-room house, 1 room to every floor. I renovated it and made it look cute, in my opinion. Low ceilings, old house, and I made it nice. And my daughter lives in there now. And I built a deck, and the deck has a view over the river, a beautiful view. It's an opening. And I built that deck because of that view. And so I said to my daughter, what do you think about the parking lot going in there? As opposed to, you're not going to be able to see weddings anymore. She said, hell, Dad, I couldn't stand the weddings. I couldn't stand the noise, the music all the time. The parking lot sounds to me much better than the wedding. In my opinion, it's the other way around, but nevertheless, the parking lot proposal, in my view, what are you going to do? You're going to help your fellow neighbor human being, you know? It's not harmful. I don't see it. Now, if that parking lot grew to 30, 40, 50 cars, now I change my mind. But 7, 8 cars allow him to survive. I feel bad because anyone that invests money, I have invested, and I know what it is to lose money. I've done it all my life, but I have fun doing it, trying to make money. You know, it's a funny thing, but it happens. In my view, you know, it's controversial, but you know what? Help your neighbor. If it's not going to kill you, it's not going to, it's, you know, you go to Europe, go to Amalfi Drive in Italy, and drive up the mountain where 2 buses, one coming down, one going up, and they basically have to bring the mirrors in. They have to be so close to avoid falling down the mountain. That's Amalfi Drive. And we can't complain. Rhinecliff is beautiful. And we don't want to put We want the restrictions that we put in, they should be logical, they should allow people to live and let live. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am?
Hi, my name is David Miller, and I live in And, well, I really appreciate what you just said, but I have a very different feeling. I walk that road all the time, and it is already a trip and a half of danger walking that road. And the idea there's going to be 8 more cars, there's a pitch to that road. It's very odd. And I know you have all this measurements and stuff, but if you literally are out there in various kinds of weather with, stuff on the, like a little snow and other debris that can like make it a little more narrow also, and like just this past winter, I'm not saying when we had the huge amount of snow, but just a little bit that was still around, there was someone coming down, and my husband and I were driving up, and it's like we just had to back all the way out in order for her to be able to come down. There was just no options. You can't pull off. And the idea of having 8 more cars, coming in and out of there, it's just scary. I mean, it's already, it's just a really quiet, funky curve to it, and there's like a weird blind spot in it. As you're coming up, there's a moment you really can't see someone's there, and whether it's a person with a dog or whether it's a car. And that's just the reality of Rhinecliff. It's funky, and it's not these straight manicured roads that we're used to, like even in Rhinebeck here. So I know it's a complicated, layered issue. I'm hearing contradictory things, the idea that there are parking spaces still available to the hotel. So why not use those? Why take away the beautiful little bit of landscape that's there, the openness, put more metal there? Who needs more 8 cars in metal? Like everyone comes there and walks. A lot of people in the town, in the hamlet, walk there. And other friends and people come down to the hamlet and love walking around. So it's just a value, you can't put money on it. It's heartfelt. We all came here because we wanted to escape all that metal. And I just wanted to share that with you all. Thank you.
Excuse me, ma'am, could you repeat your name for the record?
It's Wendy Miller.
Thank you.
Yes?
There for the microphone. There you go, Chad.
Thank you. My name is Chad Clutch. I serve on the Rhinebeck Town Board, also a longtime resident of Rhinecliff. I've had a lot of experiences in Rhinecliff over many, many years, starting in 1986, and lived there in the 90s, lived there in the 80s too, and I live there now. I have more information than you want to hear tonight about parking and making things work in Rhinebeck for pedestrians and cars and commuters and trains and FedEx and UPS and delivery trucks for restaurants and semis and traffic that doesn't necessarily know what a stop sign is. Is there a basic requirement of these parking spaces that are proposed now going to fulfill capacity for the hotel to start being a hotel again?
Questions?
Yes.
Do you want me to answer them?
Yes.
Okay. So, as we said, there is a current lease with Amtrak, but as you know...
You have a current lease with Amtrak?
Correct.
Can you prove that?
Sure.
That's not the
purpose of this tonight.
No, I know that's not.
This is for the 8 spots.
This is
And
public
so-
commentary.
Right. but-
So I'm asking a specific question, please. If you have a contract, documentation would be very helpful to clarify what you're doing here in relationship to that. So you're now stating you have how many spaces available in that contract?
So I'm not sure any of that matters. What I can say is that we have a lease with Amtrak, but the lease with Amtrak is, we can't guarantee that it's going to continue for any period of time. It's month to month, which is why we are trying to build on-site spaces so that when the day comes, when we cannot use those spaces anymore, we won't be able to replace them.
Is the requirement 22?
Yes.
And you're
Can you
current,
explain that?
and with current and proposed, not Amtrak, what do you have?
Without Amtrak?
Yeah.
Without Amtrak, we will be able to provide, what is that, 10 off-street spaces at this moment?
Spaces for the transient resident. And
Sure.
that would be the
So right now,
person who rents a room.
right now, we'd be able to provide what you're seeing, which is 7, 8, 9, 10 off-street parking spaces. That's the plan so far.
Okay. And the requirement is?
Right, we have a variance for between 2 and 25. So when this was approved, I know Mr. Kopajanski went back all the way back to 2005. There was actually a plan that was approved as part of that approval, which would have put parking along the entirety of Grinnell Street, all the way up to the wastewater treatment plant. That was the alternate layout, but we believe it's less desirable, and so we are now cobbling together those spaces through a mixture of other means. But the alternate plan would put spaces from the tip of Grinnell to the wastewater treatment plant, and that was the plan approved by the planning board at the time.
In 2005?
Correct.
But that no longer is applicable?
I mean, it's the plan of record, but it's, we are proposing to amend it.
And the zoning has sunset?
It was approved as an alternate plan, so arguably it's still valid. It was signed.
Okay.
So this is an alternative to doing that.
So the alternative is that you have how many parking spaces along Grinnell?
It would be a total of 10.
No,
Right now.
the original alternate from 2002.
I'd have to go back and pull it. I think it was 22.
Okay, and so the possibility of the Amtrak spots is a contract that is based upon a yearly renewal?
No,
Because you say it might terminate one day,
correct. It's a month-to-month lease.
month-to-month lease.
So as you can see, it doesn't offer the kind of guarantee that makes the business very viable.
And the variance would provide you the ability to have between 2 spaces
And 25,
and 25.
or 22, I'm sorry.
And the proposed spaces, as if this is not part of this proposal or part of this presentation, is the usage remains the same within the entire hotel's current.
Correct. We're not changing operations at the facility. We're not proposing any change. That's been in operation for many years.
What has?
The hotel, they've used it for events, you know, the Interact Club has held events there. So
Yep.
they've continued the use, but not at the level, you know, not a 24/7 operation.
You are significantly reducing the outdoor space with the new fencing, correct?
It does significantly reduce the outdoor space.
What about the patio? The patio underneath? the big
There's
patio?
still a patio, but that
On the
faces-
side, yeah.
That faces the river.
The lawn is going to help the weddings, I think.
Okay, I'm sorry I dragged on the meeting a little longer. I feel that, you know, the importance of the Rhinecliff Hotel and its ability to function, someone wanting to make it fully active again, because it's mostly not used at 350 days of the year. So this is a reintegration of the Rhinecliff Hotel's function from a previous period of time. And in that, this step, this process is, I think, helpful. But it doesn't, or I should say, there are other considerations toward activity and usage in the entire parts of the hamlet community that has been mentioned here tonight in terms of how the Rhinebeck Hotel is used. The concept of having a tour bus, which I remember because I've lived down in that area for a while, isn't going to happen because the new parking regulations that we just put into place and that were passed this December don't afford bus parking.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. Don't include what?
Do not include parking areas for buses or any small buses. It's for cars. So that's a consideration. The Amtrak parking is not in my purview, or part of the discussion that was involved during the assembly and building of the parking lots for the entire hamlet for the Rhinecliff. So there's a lot to figure out. I think this is a wonderful, I do support this proposal, but there's more there than just this. And many of it's been discussed, and it's a delicate, small situation. The other factor that you all have to realize is that it's the Lincoln Tunnel of our area. People fly in and out of that parking lot every day. And I've been a studio in that space, looking over it for over 25 years. It's dangerous because people think it's their driveway, and they fly out and they fly in. So this is an extremely active area. And remember, you're pulling in over 200,000 people a year using this train station, with discussions further to bring in Metro North. I'm not going to weigh in on that. So people as far as Ashokan, Woodstock, Saugerties, Kingston, Esopus, and take that bandwidth and stretch it all the way over to the Taconic, and however south to Hyde Park and however north to Germantown people feel like driving. That entire swath goes down that road almost every day. And that parking lot has got parking spaces in it, which is great because they're charging now. But every day, in and out, late evening, early evening, trains starting at 6 all the way to 12 p.m. There's people going in and out of there with no problem. This crosswalk had to get repainted. And because of drainage from this building here, it's already being worn away. I have to have that repainted with Bob Wyan. Another crosswalk was put in down here, crossing over to Kip's Tavern, to encourage people to slow down. I have to do more on that because people don't. And now there's another crosswalk at the top of Schatzl, up here, as you turn at the intersection 1. People slow down a little bit, sometimes. So there's a lot of details that involve people being hit by cars, because it's not just a quiet little town. It is a quiet little town with a huge asset to the entire Hudson Valley. And Rhinecliff shouldn't bear the burden of just being able to survive crossing the street, ever. Just like it is around here in Rhinebeck Village. Thank you.
Who's coming up? Oh, someone coming up? No, go.
Hi, I'm Jeff Hicks. I run Creed Anglin Farm. I've lived here my whole life. This is supposed to be about parking for the hotel. I mean, I haven't heard a lot about parking. What they're asking is less than was in the alternative plan, you know, when it was built. I mean, they're not asking for 22 parking spots. They're trying to see into the future and be prepared. I mean, I think that's a great thing to do. And they've gone to the highway superintendent. They've asked his opinion. You know, you're going to the professional people who are doing this. I mean, our farm is on Rhine Road, and I have more walkers than you have in Rhinecliff. People come there, we mow the lawns on the side of the road. People think that's their parking spot. They drive right over to the fence. They don't, or they park halfway in the road. You know, these people don't think about what they're doing at all. You can't protect everybody from themselves. You can go on day after day with all these comments about, you know, the people that walk. Well, sooner or later they have to take some responsibility for themselves. They bring their dogs to our road and they shit right in front of my gates. I stopped and I asked them, I said, where do you live? And they said, well, why do you want to know that? I said, well, I'd like to bring my cows over there and let them shit all over your lawn. And these people still don't understand what I'm saying to them. They are that stupid. They can't get out of the road when a tractor is coming down the road. We try to get over, and they walk right down the middle of the road. I mean, you can't protect people from themselves. And, you know, sometimes you just have to do what's right and go on. And I think this is an example of that. This just needs to be done. I mean, if he was asking for all 22, I think it still should be done. Because that's what was already in the plan. You know, I don't know. It seems kind of, I don't know. You know, the fences, I'm sure he's gonna do whatever you guys want to do if you can agree on it. But, you know, to hold up the parking spaces because of the fences, I think that's ridiculous. And, you know, people walking, how far can you protect them? That's my opinion.
Jeff, but you're on the old River Road, the original River Road.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's where people go to walk. On Newkirk. And good evening. The thing, I do support the parking there that's to be built. Yes. And I want you to know, I live in Rhinecliff, and I live on Grinnell Street, just up from, or down, whichever you choose, from the hotel. And I understand the traffic pattern there. It's very light traffic. I also understand the visibility to that proposed parking area. And the visibility is very good from either direction, given that you mind the speed limits and so on. I've lived here all my life. I'm in Rhinebeck. I'm born, raised here. I've lived here all my life. And I just happen to live in Rhinebeck. And I happen to live on Grinnell Street. So I know a little bit about this, and I see no problem whatsoever with a vehicle either backing out onto Grinnell or backing in to the parking spaces from Grinnell. This parking that we're proposing, and I totally support, is a big benefit. You know, I came here tonight thinking you would approve it tonight. I was going to hand you a lot of kudos here, but I see we have a little work to do. But the benefit here is that you get the transient person who's coming for a hotel room off the street. You're not taking the on-street kind of parking away from other people who may be patronizing the Kip Tavern or whatever. So I totally support it in that sense. So I was here last month too, and you could, I get a little emotional since I lived here all my life, and I see things changing and so on. And occasionally like this, I have an opportunity to express my opinions. So, but I do see it as a benefit to the community to put this parking in. You get them off the street, and it certainly enhances the opportunity for the Rhinecliff Hotel. I don't know about you, but I have, over the years, been to the Rhinecliff Hotel when it was in operation many times, even when Mr. Chapman operated it for dinners or Sunday brunches and all of that. It is, it's a wonderful place. And I'd like to see you approve the parking as soon as possible. So I think you'd be very proud of yourselves to do that. Thank you.
Yes?
Hi, I'm Susie. I live on Grinnell Street in Rhinecliff. And I just wanted to say I would like nothing more than to see a flourishing, vibrant hotel, but just not at the expense of the community of Rhinecliff. And I wonder whether this might be an opportunity to look at the usage of the hotel. If you're going to be looking at parking and its appropriate nature, you might need to know what it's being used for, like how many seats, and, the actual planning of parking, number of spaces. And is that something that can be done, or through this process, to actually look at usage of the hotel?
I don't think so. John, would you like to comment on that?
It's not the subject of this application.
That's right.
The parking is.
Yes.
And how do you base your decisions on the parking? Is it just location that you're talking about?
The use was approved.
I can just fill in again. It's approved at 74 seats on the second floor. That's the, what we call the banquet space. And so 74 seats and 65 seats on the first floor. So that's the approved site plan.
Okay. So conversations about weddings for 250 people would be impossible.
Correct, based on the approved site plan,
Yes.
74 seats upstairs is the limit.
74 seats upstairs is the limit. Okay. So that would be the limit of outside events, correct? Victoria?
I mean, outside.
A wedding, for example.
Correct. The site plan, and I don't have it in front of me, but these are my notes, I can confirm. 74 plus 65.
That's right. Occupancy.
It was 135, or something? Okay.
74.
But you add those two things, two different numbers, right? So if you add them together, it's like 150 or something, just 135?
I don't know.
Kyle? So you have available limits.
Right, that's what's approved, and that's what the parking is based on, right? The parking needs are based on the approved site plan. So we're not pulling numbers out of thin air. Those numbers are coming from the site plan that was approved with those numbers.
Okay. And that was 75 and 60?
74 and 65.
I would like to say that it might be stretching it to say it's continuous use. It seems like it's, sorry. I would like to add that continuous use would be, it's been used as a single-family residence as far as I can tell, and an event space maybe 3 or 4 times a year, and I
Which
don't
is
know.
contingent for use, right?
Does it?
I think there's a lot of confusion around what the law is, which Jim can speak better to it, but I think the law is that if you use it once per year and submit proof of that, then the use gets grandfathered, it continues.
And this discussion was undertaken, Victoria, again, you probably know this better than I don't remember, but this discussion was undertaken last year or the year before, And I think through the zoning administrator, maybe the ZBA, I can't remember, but the determination was made that the hotel has been used as a hotel, whatever it's been, as a continuous use, so.
At the time, that's what the zoning.
Right, so
And sometimes they use more than one.
So the zoning administrator has made a determination that it has been a continuous use. The use is not part of the discussion. We're here really to discuss, I think, the design and the layout of the 9 spaces that are here. They're permitted 22 by the plan. So we're here to discuss, as it's on the chart here, it's a site plan amendment, which means that we're amending the existing site plan to permit the number of spaces here. So we're really here to talk about the design of those. And so it has been approved for spaces. The use has been determined to be in continuous existence, so that's not really a discussion for us to have. That's done separately. So our discussion again is focused on this parking space, and that's really the only focus of the application before us. The other issues have been discussed.
And in fact, I don't believe that this board has the authority to restrict the use. I think that should be clear.
Right, yes. No, we would, yes. The uses that are permitted are those that are in the code. But we're not even talking about the uses. That has been already determined.
But this board does not have the authority to say no more than 40 people can be at a wedding, or 100 people, or anything like that.
Correct.
Because
And they have to submit their proof through the zoning enforcement officer, and we just receive the information, so we don't have any jurisdiction over that.
And that would just be the CEO?
Your board does not, but your code enforcement official does.
Right, and that's our
Code enforcement official is the one that set these numbers.
Yeah.
And that's already been determined. That's already been established that there's been a
Right.
continuous use for the use that's there. So it's not, again, it's not a discussion for this board.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Yes, Richard?
So, I know this doesn't matter at this point, because it seems as if it's a done deal, but I just spoke to James Chapman today, and his weddings would be 100 to 200 there without any problem. That being said, what you're saying is that somehow it was proven that it's a continuous use. Somehow Brian consented to that? Did Brian say it was a continuous use? He did.
I'd have to find the documentation, but again, I don't remember off the top of my head.
yeah.
Yes, it was determined. That determination was made.
The proof generally goes through this only because of my very short time having a
because of DS4.
We have to submit things to Brian, and he makes the jurisdiction. He makes the decision.
And it's that reason why it did not go back to the ZBA, because it didn't lose its variances.
That was Brian's determination.
That was Brian's determination.
Well, anybody that's aggrieved by a decision that Brian makes can appeal that decision to the ZBA. It wasn't appealed by anybody.
The ZBA didn't know anything about it.
Because it's not up to the ZBA to decide what comes before it. It's that...
That's what I'm saying. It should have come from here.
No. It goes through Brian.
It goes through Brian.
He's the gate.
The planning board does not have the authority to make interpretations about the zoning law. So everything goes through Brian, and people who disagree with the determinations that Brian makes have the ability to appeal those determinations to the zoning board of appeals.
Yeah, well, but the public never heard of what Brian came up with. So how can you appeal?
Well, things happen all the time.
Really?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is we're not out publicizing every single thing that takes place. There's some responsibility on the part of the public to stay apprised of it. The meetings are, I don't know whether Brian's decisions are posted on the town website, but...
Okay, thank you very much.
Anyone else?
You want to answer anything?
I mean, I'm happy to answer any questions the board has. This discussion did come up when this application's been before the board for a long time. So it did come up at the beginning of this process.
So there anything you want to add, Virginia?
Nope, I'm just here to answer any other questions you might have.
Jim, anything you want to add?
No, thank you.
John? What about a discussion here about whether we do or do not continue the public hearing? How does the planning board feel about that?
I'd like to ask John a question first.
Okay.
John, some people in Rhine Cliff are very concerned about the use that they see about to happen, so that there might be very large weddings and a fair amount of noise. Do those people have any recourse now that our zoning officer has decided that there was continuous use, and so that use, can now continue into the future? This board doesn't have any authority to set limits on the use. So do those people in Rhine Cliff have any recourse?
Recourse to try to change what's
Yeah, to limit the use in some way.
The answer is, for the most part, no. Okay? Once you receive your approval from the board when you're a landowner and an applicant, as long as it's not discontinued, as was discussed earlier, then you have an entitlement to continue to use that property in accordance with your approved use. And people who are property owners, they get approval from the board, and they oftentimes make expenditures and investments in their property in reliance upon the fact that they're going to be able to, they have a right to continue the use after having gotten the approval.
And this issue of continuous use, do you know when that decision was made? How long ago was it?
I don't. I wasn't associated with it. I can find out. If you wish, I can try to get that decision and circulate a copy of that to the board members.
And when that decision was made, people in Rhine Cliff could have gone to the ZBA and contested that decision, correct?
Yes, you have a period of 62 days.
So that's what I was wondering. It's 62 days.
Yeah.
So that is gone now, that opportunity.
I would presume so. I don't know when the date of that decision was.
It was done years ago, and we do have a copy of that somewhere in my files, but I'm not going to search for them tonight because it's buried in pages and pages of different files. But I know I've seen it, I just don't have to go back and find it, so I know we have it.
Well, we're not talking years and years and years and years, because it's been within the tenure of Brian as the zoning administrator, which has only been, how many?
5 years or so.
I would say certainly less than 5, I can't remember exactly, but I don't want people to think it was decades ago that this was determined.
I do have one question about that though, because every year they have to resubmit that they have done that event again. So doesn't it get certified each year? Each year it has to be proven again. And my second question is, which I'm assuming the answer is no, but whether we're talking about the lease or the proof of event, do those have to be in public file, or those are just received by the zoning enforcement officer?
There's no requirement, as far as I know, that we have to submit on a yearly basis, as long as they're continuing the whole events. Like, a restaurant that's in operation doesn't have to submit every year proof of being open.
That would surprise me, because I had to submit every year to say I had something going on when we attempted to have a restaurant, so I would check on that.
Yeah, okay, we can follow up, but for tonight,
we have all the
question is...
documentation, we have the occupancy tax filings, we have...
Right, they've been, the hotel has continuously been filing the short-term rental hotel occupancy tax with the county to show for the rooms that they've been renting, so we have that proof that we can file.
And for the events, we have photographs,
we have photographs of special events that have been held at the facility. So, should that become an issue, we can address it separately, but tonight, we're really only here for the 8 spaces for the board ratings.
Gotcha.
I just want to add, it does seem then that capping the kinds of use that happen at the hotel will be up to the owners of the hotel and the operators and their interest in remaining good citizens of Rhinecliff.
And within the laws of the town.
There's that, and I'm not trying to minimize this, but it feels to me, in terms of the parking and the access and the buses, I mean, I work in tourism, and even when I see the buses in the village of Rhinebeck, they don't get to just pull up and park and stop. They have to offload. And to my knowledge, the buses have to go somewhere else and make arrangements with other locations to have the buses wait until it's time to pick up the 45 people that are at the Beacon and Arms. I would presume if there were lunches for group tour operators going to the hotel for that lunch, they're going to have to make the same arrangements. They're not going to be able to idle. I don't know what the rules were before, but there's not going to be the ability, I think, or the desire on the part of anybody to have buses idling outside this hotel for 2.5 hours while they have a nice lunch. Some of these things seem to me they'll have to be self-regulating in that if you can't seat 250 people, you certainly can't get 250 cars. The arrangements are going to have to be made for off-premises parking in order for it to work. So I don't know how you can guarantee all those things, but I have to believe that enforcement and town code and other things will assist in that kind of control that we're talking about here, which I think is, they're all really questions, but I just don't know how to guarantee.
Should the operator want to have parties and events on a limited basis, no one's going to book them if they can't come up with adequate parking arrangements. Right? People don't want to go to somewhere where they can't park. And so I do think a lot of these operational concerns will be addressed. Enforcement will continue to be a priority for the town. And just for the record, I want to note that this is a business district. So people that move next to a business district have to expect that businesses will have some operational noise and traffic associated with them. The job here is to minimize it and try and mitigate it. We're trying to mitigate the views. We want to make sure the parking is safe. But that is attendant to living near a business district.
But it's not a generic business district.
It is the Rhinecliff
It's in particular, it's the Rhinecliff Business District, and we have a comprehensive plan that really guides a lot of what we're responsible for on this board. And I think it would benefit all of us to take a look at what the comprehensive plan says, and maybe going forward make suggestions for what could be added to that plan.
The comprehensive plan is like a vision board. It's the zoning that has to guide your approval of these applications.
It's actually both.
I think given that the comprehensive plan was adopted by the town board.
It doesn't carry the weight of law. The zoning, the comprehensive plan is the town's vision for the future and what it hopes to implement usually over a period of time.
Okay.
All right, I think we're getting a little far afield here, and I'd like to bring us back to the question at hand. So the first question I asked was if people were interested in continuing the public hearing. We've heard from the public tonight, we've heard from them before. We have a choice here. We can continue it or not, and I'm asking for your feedback.
I don't see any need to continue it.
No,
I think we know what we can and cannot do.
I think we've been presented with a spectrum of different viewpoints. And I don't know if, adding to the spaces within would really add that much to the deliberations.
Sharon and Delise? I agree. Then I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Regarding where we stand on the question before us, are you wishing to continue or you could meet again next month to have a further discussion, or is there any additional
What are we
information?
going to talk about?
Well, I was just going to say, is there any additional information?
I'm with Sean on this one. It's like, I don't know where this is going, because our responsibility here is just to review the site plan for the parking and the associated changes that go with that. And tonight's discussion has taken us to a lot of other places that really aren't part of that. So I think if we can get that piece resolved, I think it won't close the matter, but it'll close this application.
And anyone else? Jim, anything in closing? John, anything?
No.
So we have before us a draft approval resolution. Jim could walk us through.
Draft approval.
Sorry, Jim, but do you need to reach a consensus on any elements before you start with the resolution? Is the fence issue something that?
I think Melody just,
Well, I think what John is referring to, we're going back to fences. Are you talking about that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was certainly a lack of total agreement on the fences, correct? So I think John is saying, do we have to reach agreement on that? Is there anything the applicant would like to say?
I mean, we would say this is what the applicant is seeking. This is the project they're putting forward. It meets the code, it mitigates the concerns raised by the board about having the see-through slats in some portions and not seeing the solar treatment plant in other portions. I think the scoop comes down to be a matter of taste.
Actually, let's vote on the fence and then vote on the other.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
I was saying we could just vote on the fence and then vote on the, or we could continue conversation.
We could poll the board. Why don't we poll the board on the fencing and see where we stand? So you have a proposal before you, which is the desire of the applicant. And why don't we just do a straw poll here as to where people fall on.
Throw that in.
Why don't I start in the middle?
okay, perfect. I don't see anything to do that says they can't build the fence that way.
Okay, Karen?
The fence proposed is fine.
Louise?
It's fine.
I'm fine with the fence as proposed.
I'm not fine.
Yeah, could have been made.
That's the distaff. So then the procedural resolution, is there anything else that was up in the air about this? Was it just the fence? I'm trying to, just the fence. All right, if that issue has been addressed, then you have the draft approval resolution, which Jim can go through.
Which would be an approval resolution for the proposal as submitted. Resolution asking the Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board to act on the application by the Rhinebeck Hotel for site plan and special use permit under Town Code Chapter 125, Section 12565, 12569, and 12572, respectively, for construction/realignment of 9 off-street parking spaces, which is only an addition of 8 parking spaces, at 4 Grinnell Street within the RCB Rhinecliff Business Zoning District and the RCO Rhinecliff Overlay. Reaffirming the action as Type 2 under secret for which community environmental quality review is precluded. Based upon the submitted information, reviews undertaken, finding the proposed work is consistent with the objectives and regulations of Chapter 125. With respect to the application for a special use permit to construct the new parking spaces, finding the work and intended use is consistent with the general standards for special use permits, and asking the board to grant the requested special use permit conditioned upon receipt of site plan approval. And with respect to the application for site plan approval, asking the board to find that the work and intended use is consistent with Town Code Chapter 125, and approving the application inclusive of the application materials and site plan by Lavelle Associates, which is dated April 20th, 2026, which is different than what's up there because we got a new one, but I took care of that here. Asking you to authorize the planning board chair to stamp and sign the above cited site plan upon the applicant's satisfaction of the 3 conditions listed below. Reminding everyone that in taking this action, the planning board authorizes the planning board secretary to provide the approval resolution to the applicant along with details on the next steps required to finalize the planning board process, and that all plans, sketches, and other materials submitted to the Town of Rhinebeck Building Department for any required permits must match those that were submitted to the planning board tonight.
May I hear a motion?
Jen,
So
can I-
moved.
sorry, can I just clarify one thing? We do have in there with the addition of 2 spaces, it's 9 total?
No, it's construction / realignment of 9 off-street spaces.
Okay, but the total says 10?
No, I didn't have a total on there.
Okay. Never mind.
I said construction / realignment of 9, because
Okay.
we're adding 8, but
So
you're
I'm
realigning a couple.
Right there, okay.
It's construction / realignment of 9.
You good?
We're good.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
I will poll the board. John?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Elise?
Aye.
Craig?
Aye.
Edmund? Aye. And I vote aye.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Before we go on to the next matter, is there any way that we can encourage the town board to do, I mean, we have a member of the town board here tonight, to focus some attention on the issue of traffic calming and parking, which is also related. I feel like those issues aren't being adequately covered, and it's kind of beyond our purview to do that. So I don't know if it's in the form of a letter or something like that. But
Chad did mention that they were redoing the crosswalk and stuff like that, so I think it's on their site, but how seriously, I mean, yeah, thank you.
yeah, I've never been about parking per se, and the fact that it does kind of interfere with the traffic actually has a way of slowing people down because they don't want to dent their fenders.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of opportunities in a place like Rhinecliff to both enhance and beautify as well as
Some people see speed bumps as jumps.
slow things down. Yeah.
Well, I also...
I'm not saying speed bumps, but there are things.
There are other options.
Yeah, there are other options. And there's been a lot of thinking on this, and a lot of our techniques are couched in the past. So if we could have a little more updated perspective.
Lots of cameras with speed signs and such tickets in the middle.
Okay. All right. I mean, I know the town board spent a lot of time, even in the last year, talking about the traffic problems. And I don't know that all of it can be resolved until ultimately we figure out what's going on with Amtrak, not going on with
Or Metro,
Amtrak.
yeah.
Metro North, all of that. I mean, it's a serious problem with a lot of moving parts that don't seem to be resolving themselves.
Yeah, and a lot of it has to do with people from elsewhere coming to our town to enjoy our resources and then leave. And, it kind of leaves us in a spot where if you want to go to Gibbs Tavern on a Thursday night, you're going to go down there and there's going to be no place to park because the Amtrak lot is full. And, here they're buying spots over there at an empty venue that they got coned up. No parking there. It's going to be a little frustrating.
If I don't know if you're ambitious enough to do so, but it would be possible to send, so the town board did set a foot into the matter by passing the resolution endorsing and approval of the application, and Chad appeared tonight. But you might want to, we've been trying to communicate better and more frequently with the town board over time. It might be appropriate for the planning board to send the town board a letter. You can say, the board approved the application on May 4th, but we had a public hearing and we heard a number of concerns during the course of the public hearing, and those can be discussed briefly, and we're just bringing those to your attention. I think there is some conversation starting to build about the possibility of taking a look at refreshing the comprehensive plan. There's a variety of different issues that the passage of time is prompting the need to take a look at certain things again, and this might be one of them. It's very complicated down in Rhinecliff, as you know, because there's a lot of different layers to the issues, and there's pieces of it that are outside the control of the town. And but anyway, that would be a way to try to at least notify the town board that the planning board received those concerns during the course of the hearing.
I'm going to suggest that people start traveling by barge like they used to in the 1830s, and they just dock right at the town dock there.
Well, as you know, barge docking
love
has
to go next
been a
time.
problem of its own, which is completely separate.
I'm going to remind us, we have, so why don't we ask Jim to just draft something that we can look at quickly for next month.
Okay.
But right now, I'd like to move on to the next public hearing for this evening, which is that of Darren Prince and Tony Swiss, Cliff Road, site plan review for the construction of a single-family dwelling, covered terrace and ground pool with fence. Good evening.
Hi. We don't have any new items to present. I think at this point we've responded to all the items in the technical review. We received the notice of violation, and we're here tonight just to look at wrapping this up.
So based on my review, we do have to, we did send an email, I think last week, resolve the stop work order resolution. I believe CPL still has comments on the SWIP and a couple others that need to be addressed. They had sent a letter a couple weeks ago, I believe.
Those were, all the comments were addressed in our submission.
Okay, I mean, typically the board would ask for a sign-off letter by CPL to make sure that they are in agreement that everything's been addressed. I don't think I've seen that, but if I missed it, then that may be. We asked about closeout of the DEC application. I don't know if you think it's necessary or not. Trish and I both thought that would be a good thing to do, but that is certainly up to you. The only other thing I think that was missing from my perspective in terms of the planning side of things was just an identification of trees that were going to be removed to put the driveway in the location that we were showing here, between where there's already the clearing and then where there's the clearing over here where the existing drive is and the cleared area on this site. And we'd asked for that. We do have a tree removal plan, but it didn't show this area in particular. So I think that was the only thing that I had identified. It was still outstanding if the board wishes to have that information for the building department.
Do you want to answer his questions?
To my knowledge, we've surveyed the trees multiple times. We've answered all of the items that were asked of us. So, to my knowledge, the only outstanding items are those we received the notice of violation a couple of days ago, which was linked to the Hudsonia report, and that's, as far as I know, the only thing outstanding for this application.
So when Jim is talking about the identification of trees to be removed, has that been submitted for the driveway?
To my knowledge, we've looked at trees on this property to exhaustion for the past 2.5 years.
Should we have it in the file?
Yes, but not this little section here where the driveway was realigned. We do have it for all of this area. I don't deny that. You guys did submit that. We don't have the connection between the clearing for the house site and the end of the driveway here. That was the area that we had asked about previously that I don't think exists. So, typically we ask for that information, but again, it's up to the board.
So it is the if we were to submit that a tree was going to be removed in that location, would that change the location of the driveway? Would that change? I mean, we've been talking about this for a very long time now.
The information is needed so when the building department goes out, they make sure that the trees that have been identified to be removed are the ones that are actually removed. It's for their purposes when they go out in the field.
All right, so we have not, Brian sent his mitigation plan.
Yes.
That's been received.
Yes.
Has your client responded to Brian's letter?
No, we just received that 2 days ago, so no, we haven't responded to that yet. I just would like to establish what items are left to be done so that we can finally bring this to a conclusion.
I think it's the CPL closure letter. and then whatever Jim's asking for, and then to find out what your client's position is with regard to the settlement letter. on
So I guess
NOV.
between Jim and John, what we're saying is, we'll go back to CPL and ask for a closeout letter from them. That's on us.
Okay.
I don't know how the board feels about about requiring what Jim is asking for in terms of documentation in that short section of what trees will be removed. I'll leave it to you to decide.
I don't feel it's necessary.
Pardon?
I do not feel it's necessary.
Craig?
Yeah, at this point, that alignment
Yeah.
seemed like it was fairly in the open, and I don't know if there are any trees of significant size that are going to be sacrificed for that.
All right. Others?
I don't see it as an issue.
Elise? Sharon?
I think it's just like, it is something we
It
typically
is what it
request. We've done a ton of tree work on this property.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think start that again, I think at this point,
Okay, so we're in agreement that we don't need that. So it seems it's down to the CPL do a sign-off letter and getting a response from the owner and his representatives regarding the mitigation plan.
Understood.
Okay, how much time would you like to be able to review the proposal from Ryan?
Do I review that with Brian if I have questions, or?
That is what he is offering as the mitigation plan. So you need, it's not a review, you need to come back to Brian, but Brian is not, I don't know who you'll go to, but you'll have to go back to that department.
Well, if there's a discussion on the letter, should we address that to Brian? Should we have a meeting with Brian, or?
Brian is no longer...
Well, if you have comments, the best way to do it would be to send an email to Brian that's copied to Gretchen with your comments or questions, and Brian is still working, but he's working on a sporadic basis. So we'll get those to Brian, and then if there has to, we'll try to get an answer to you, or if there has to be a meeting, we'll try to arrange a meeting at that point.
Okay. That's my question, because if I have more comments or questions about that, do I come here, or do I go to him? Because
It's
my
Brian.
understanding is this is Brian's.
It is Brian's determination. He's the person that laid down the notice of violation and the stop work order. He is the only person that can list that.
Yeah, okay.
And so...
So who determined the letter? Is that Brian, or you guys?
No.
Brian.
It was all Brian?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so back to the question. I guess I'm asking if we're scheduling you in 2 weeks, or are we scheduling you in a month? That's the basis of my question.
Well, can we close the public hearing tonight?
I'm okay with that.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
I'll have a motion. So moved. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And can we make the resolution of the notice of violation conditional on the approval of the application?
Just to remind people, part of it is, as I recall, having looked at it, is that satisfaction of the mitigation plan, whatever one we agree to in the end, is tied to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy, right? So the protection in there is, should the applicant not, for whatever reason, be able to satisfy the mitigation plan until there's the satisfaction of the inspection after the CO is not issued. So that's part of that, but I don't know about a conditional approval.
Well, doesn't the acceptance of that release the violation? And the violation
Yeah,
has to
I
be
think
released?
we need to have the violation
That's
released
your reason
before,
for the
and that's what
Yeah.
the law says. They don't have a discretionary decision about waiving that.
Okay, so back to,
So in terms of the timeframe, my concern would just be so Brian is not available, then is there somebody in his place? It's hard to determine a timeframe if I don't know who I'm
well, we can
engaging
schedule it
with.
for 2 weeks in the hopes that we can accomplish
Okay.
getting a response
Yep.
and getting the response to Brian or Brian's representative, or we know we have to work on our end to find someone to respond to your questions or concerns or, interest in knowing more detail. So,
Right, and the town is working on trying to fill the position.
Understood.
I mean, obviously, it's better if we can involve Brian because he was the person who issued it in the first place and the person who issued this mitigation plan. So we don't want it to drag into somebody else that has to suddenly learn about this and get up to speed. We're not interested in that. So I would recommend that we schedule it for 2 weeks, and we'll all do our best on both sides to be able to bring this to closure then.
Thank you.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Last thing, that concludes the public hearings and brings us to one ZBA referral.
The CBA referral is for a house on Mill Road. It's kind of across from the entrance to Grassmere off of Mill Road, if you can kind of picture where we are. The resident here is looking to expand the porch a little bit to make it easier for her to get into the house. She does have a wheelchair, currently doesn't need to get in the house, but needs a bigger landing. Right now it's just this small, I think 2-foot area. So she wants a bigger area to be able to get to. She's not proposing to put a ramp up to it. It is on a scenic road, but this is a ZBA referral. I took a look at it. I don't see any real issues. We've discussed a number of these in the past. It is for a legitimate need if someone physically be able to get in the house. I don't see any issues with it, but I did turn it over to you for discussion.
I agree that we should pursue your recommendation on this.
No significant planning or environmental concerns?
I agree. Motion?
So moved.
Second? Vote? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstention, motion carries.
Thank you.
And lastly, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
I just have one question, which, there was a second site, another site visit offered for South Mill because they cut in the path now of where the driveway will be. It looks like it wasn't forwarded to the whole board, but perhaps meant to be. They were proposing tomorrow afternoon or Thursday afternoon, and we're requesting, if I read the email correctly, to have it happen this week. I know I've been there, and while I'd like to go back, my week might be very difficult for me on those afternoons, but I do think, Sharon said she'd go. I didn't need more representatives than just Sharon, so I didn't know. We'll forward the email, but.
When are they back before us?
When are they back before?
Next meeting.
I should also say, which I'm going to send you an email, I will not be here on the 18th, so even more reason why someone else should be there.
Was Christian copied on the email, do you know?
I can tell you, there were several people.
Yeah.
Let me look.
I don't know if they'll be able to
You
get
got
out.
it.
He was looking at it.
It's kind, I just wondered if.
I don't want to, I didn't see this, but he didn't. Yeah,
No, I agree. Just, it's very short notice to turn it around.
I know.
And
No, it's
And if-
Christina, Matt, Louise, and Sharon. Yeah.
I'll forward it to Christian when you forward it on.
I'll forward it to
what,
everyone.
do we want to suggest to them that it's too short notice and that we need to have a little more control over when people can go?
Whatever you guys want. I just can't fulfill it, so I want to make sure everyone else, I'm going to forward it to everyone now.
Has the date been decided? You said
He just sent it this afternoon, saying, can we do tomorrow or Thursday afternoon?
Oh, so it's not decided?
No, I mean, I just got it right before 5 o'clock.
Well, yeah, that's not going to be very easy. It's not very kind.
Well, that's no excuse.
And I've been asking a lot.
So that would be 1, 2, so that's, we need to be, I'm not saying no, because I can't say no, but with being down one person now, 4 would be the quorum. So if anyone else thinks they're going to have any issue, we should know about it sooner rather than later. And I would also encourage you to try and get to me any information about people who might be interested in applying.
Yeah.
The sooner we can fill that seat, the easier it is on everybody. So why don't you, perhaps what you could do is circulate, you can reply to them and say you're circulating it to the entire board that you keep.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is obviously out.
Okay, I'll do that.
And, suggest that perhaps people may want to weigh in when they are available. I appreciate the fact that they cut in a path, but, Sharon shouldn't be out there alone either, so.
It's a falling
Well,
all right. I had to have Scott Berger call me up the hill. Does that work for everybody?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, did I get an adjournment motion?
No, so moved.
So, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries.